rise for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Good evening. A couple announcements. The next planning board meeting will be on October 30th instead of October 23rd. And anyone here for Homeland Towers will have an adjournment tonight for that, but the public hearing will remain open. Downtown Mahopac Properties, Joe?
Good evening.
Mike?
This was on for resolution. I have no comments at this time.
Rich?
All engineering comments have been addressed.
Pat, you have a resolution before you this evening, Mr. Chairman.
All right, based on our discussion at the last meeting to get in touch with the engineer from the New York State DOT, unfortunately, myself, Joe, and Pat desperately tried, but without success, so we'd ask for an adjournment to the next meeting, please.
Sure, that makes sense. Fine. Thank you, Joe.
Okay.
Monteleone, Laurie, 12124, Shinnegan Hill. Mike?
The applicant wishes to do a lot line adjustment for the two properties off Shindagan Hill Road in Mahopac. The lot line adjustment rules do not apply to this application. I already spoke to Joel about this. You're only allowed to do 20% or up to 20,000 square feet of transfer. This is much more than that, so therefore it doesn't apply. They would need to do a conventional subdivision map. The one that was submitted to me did not have the house on it, but it does now. They show a house and a septic, which was one of my comments that's required. Using a conventional subdivision method, the applicant needs a variance for lot area for lot 2. 120,000 square feet is required, 79,125 is proposed, and 40,875 square foot variance is required. They're making it more in conformity, but not quite the 3 acre. The other one will still be the 3 acres.
Okay. Thanks, Mike. Rich?
So no comments on the lot line from the engineering department. As sketch plan was provided at one point in time, they had met all the requirements for sketch plan in the previous submittal. So, you know, it will have to be reviewed going further when we get to the next steps, the next levels of subdivisions.
Pat?
So this is currently an individual small lot with the existing dwelling in the middle and a sort of a larger U-shaped lot that surrounds it. So the proposal involves eliminating that U, that's the current situation, an odd shape. So the proposal is to eliminate that right leg of the U and enlarge the parcel that supports the existing dwelling. So as Mike indicated, that is still non-conforming, but more conforming than it is today. If you could flip that back over, Joel. So the big question is, why is this being done, number one? Number two, are any improvements proposed for the existing dwelling on that enlarged parcel? We would want to know about that. And as Rich indicated, we eventually need to know more about the potential development on the larger lot. So that existing building footprint, it's a very large parcel, it's up to the front. Why is it in that location? Are there any environmental constraints pushing it in that location? There's a subsurface septic disposal system proposed behind the building. We'd need to know about soil conditions to determine if that's acceptable. So your task in the case of something like this is to eventually, at the next stage, determine if that lot is actually buildable as being proposed by Joel. So the fundamental issue with respect to the application is, why is it being done?
Okay, as you can see from the original drawing, the large lot is approximately 4 acres, and it's like it wraps around the house. The existing house, obviously, you can see is very close to the property line over here. So basically, what we're trying to do is to make this lot more conforming and still keep the larger lot as a conforming lot. So what happens is, we're basically giving this section or this portion over to the existing small lot with the house. There's no plans to improve the house, but just to give it a larger piece of land, and then just to make this more, still conforming. It goes down, the requirement is 120,000 square feet or 3 acres, and we have 130,792 square feet. And this lot, which was originally 33,000 square feet, is more than double. It's going up to almost 80,000 square feet. So I think what happens is, there's no plan to do any improvements to this house, just to give it a nicer lot. To answer Pat's question, and I know Mike had the same question too, we have enough width here to, again, have a conforming lot. The house is more than conforming as far as front yard, side yard. Of course, the rear yard is obviously big enough. And we've done some pre-testing in this area back over here for a septic system. We found the soil conditions to be more than satisfactory, actually. So basically, at this point, there's not much more we can do except to go to the zoning board to get the fact that this is going from 4 to 3 acres, still conforming. This is going from 33,000 to 80,000, not conforming, but more conforming. But it still has to go, correct me if I'm wrong, it does have to go to the zoning board.
Yeah. And if you ask why they had to make it that strange shape to get the lot width.
Okay.
Otherwise, at the midpoint, he wouldn't have 200 feet, so he had to actually cut that angle back a little bit, just to make it 200 feet wide at the midpoint of the depth line.
Now, what's interesting, that's a very good point, Mike. That's why we had to make the lot the way we did. But the interesting thing is, or the good thing is the fact, even though that this lot doesn't have 3 acres, but the lot width and the lot depth are now conforming. So we have made the lot width, lot depth conforming. We've made the area much more conforming, yet, as Mike said, this lot is 3 acres and now is able to have a lot width and lot depth that conform. So we're actually making both properties a lot more conforming.
Joe, can you trace out the proposed lot line adjustment with the existing house?
Yes.
Well, it's no longer a lot line adjustment, it's now a subdivision.
Well, I know what you're talking
Show me
about.
the-
Yes, okay, all right. This represents the lot with the house, and right now, this is 33,000 square feet. This, which is the rest of it, is a little bit over 4 acres. So what we're doing basically is taking this part of the leg of the existing lot and adding it to this lot, bringing it up to 80,000. So this now becomes this. So this becomes 80,000, just under 80,000 square feet. But, as Michael said, we have 3 acres here, but because of the configuration, we're able to create a conforming lot width and lot depth, and this lot goes from non-conforming lot width and lot depth to a conforming lot width and lot depth. But again, we need, as Michael said, I think it was 40,000, we need about a 40,000 square foot variance because this lot is 80,000 instead of 120,000.
The building that's on the left, is that?
Oh, this is proposed, no, it's proposed. This is all proposed. Right now, this is all vacant, as you,
Our code requires that you make a building lot, you can't just make a vacant lot. So by
You can't
making a
just
building
create-
lot, you have to show that you can put a house in a septic or a sewer, depending on what you have.
so this is what it looks like now. So what we're doing is adding on to this lot, getting rid of this out of this lot, bringing it down to 3 acres, just 80,000. And as I mentioned, we did do some testing for the septic system in this area over here. We found that to be acceptable and approvable for a septic system.
Did you locate the existing septic also? Is that on there?
Yes, the existing septic is over here, over on this house, and it's behind the house. The well is up front, and this well also will be up front.
Joel, what will be the left lot line of the existing house property? Is that square or rectangle? What-
This is the existing.
Well, going on the left side, to your right.
Right where you-
To your right, there, a little bit over to the right, there's a box there,
This?
as good as my eyes are, I can't read it, what is that?
Oh, it's just a fence enclosure like that before going.
Oh, okay, all right.
It's not a structure.
Okay.
And what's to the left of the property?
Bobby, microphone.
Over here, there, over here? Okay, this
Just for
is
the
a-
record, what's
a large-
to the left of the property, just to the mic? I was just speaking into the mic. My mic.
Mike is right over here.
No, my mic is off.
I Yeah, there's a big yard over here, and there's a house just about over here where we have the planning board stamp. So this house is over here. Again, wells in the front, septic's in the back, all along the street. Again, because of topography, it makes sense to have the well at a higher elevation and the septic
Are you
below.
planning to bring any soil in? Are
Sorry?
you planning to bring any soil?
No, no. We tested it here. We were able to get down to the 7 feet that's required by the health department. So we're not taking any soil away. We're not bringing any soil in. So
But
basically, the lot will look just
that's
like.
to be determined yet. Right now, yes, we'll take Joel at his word, but the devil's in the details when we get to the next couple of layers. Right now, we're at sketch, so that hasn't been considered.
And if you
Sorry,
sell
Joel, I
it,
mean, but
Well,
we
I
don't
mean,
know
we
that, but
did do
he's
some
saying
te-
that there's not gonna be, so we'll take him at his word on that, right? So, but we'll see what happens when the final plans come in.
What are you talking about? I mean, we did do testing here. We found we got 7-foot deep holes.
but if the new people come in and they buy the lot, they may change the topo or do something.
they-
That's-
Oh, that-
There's
yeah,
so many things that could be.
But
that's
the
all.
point is, right,
You're
yes,
not
but
planning
once
on that
once
with
this
this
is
submission.
approved, it's approved based on what we have, our testing. If a new person comes in and they do something else,
I think
may
we're
have to
talking
go to this
about
board.
the grading for the house, the grading for the driveway, not just the septic system. So there's
Right, so
more.
that there may or may not be filled for the grade that house to keep the property level, to make it a level property. Don't know that yet.
Well, again, if you've been to the property, you can see the topo lines here. They're pretty far apart. The grade here is probably less than 10%, maybe 7 or 8%. Okay, anyway, the point is, we can't do anything unless we get approval from the zoning board for the variance, for one variance.
And if they were able to go with the lot line adjustment, they would not have needed the variance, just to be clear. That's why it was a little different.
The
you know,
problem,
once-
as Mike said, is that it's more than 20,000 square feet. That's why it's a subdivision versus a lot line,
It's a technicality in the
Sit-
code that was written in for
a long time ago.
So Joe, what,
not 4 years.
the frame house that's there, is there anyone living in that now?
Yes,
Okay. Is it the same owner as the other lot?
yes.
Oh, okay. And so they're, simply want to revise
Well,
the lot
create
lines?
create a more conforming lot here, and obviously keep this conforming.
So, but the intent then is to, what's the intent
Oh,
with the other
well, the
property?
intent was, this will remain, and this eventually will be sold.
Okay. So they're not gonna build, they're,
No.
per se, there's no plan, it's just,
Uh,
Creating a
anything can
buildable-
change,
Yeah,
But right
yeah.
now, the plan is not to build it, yes.
the existing septic for the existing home is in the back, correct?
Yes. Right, in fact, here, it's shown here in this,
Yeah, yeah, it just wasn't shown on the original, on the prior, didn't indicate on the prior plan, on the other side, but that's
survey
okay.
it did. I'm pretty sure, well, okay, whatever. But yeah, it's there. You got me curious.
Yeah.
Oh, you're right, and that previous one wasn't shown.
What's that road, or there's some sort of drive or something indicated coming in, those two sets of parallel lines, what is that, some easement or something? What is that?
No, this is the right, this is the traveled way of
No,
Shandaken.
no, I'm sorry.
Here?
Upper right side of the smaller lot. Right, go to the right, go to your right. There you
Yes.
go. For those, there's two sets of, through the whole lot, there's two dashed lines.
Yeah, here, yeah.
Right
No.
below number two.
These here?
Yes.
Yeah, what are those, and what's that other set of dashed lines coming in from the side? Is that an access way, a driveway, what is that?
It's nothing, it's just, I guess,
It was what they called a wagon road. I don't know what the wagon was.
Okay.
There's no right of way on that, is there?
no.
Well, I'm just wondering what's coming in from
No,
there.
we have a copy of the deed, there's nothing in there.
Excuse me, if you're going to speak, you just need to
Oh, I'm
use the
sorry.
microphone because nobody can hear you. Okay.
And so those two dashed lines, what do they represent?
Oh,
The two parallel dashed lines?
yeah, the lot width and lot depth.
No,
Here, lot width. You talking about? And lot depth, here. Oh, this line, I have no idea what this line is. Let me just check the survey, hold on. No, if you look at the survey, it's, the only thing shown on the survey is the old wagon road.
oh,
I guess,
well, that's why I asked the question. If there's new lines on the new drawing, I'm just wondering what they're for.
I don't know how they got on there. No,
So Joel, could you confirm that the wagon road, there's no easement or any right
no,
from the
we
neighboring
have a
property?
copy of the deed. I looked through it, yes, I did.
So that's a path that doesn't mean anything for the future use of that property?
No, absolutely not.
And what's to the right of the property?
Here,
No, on,
on this side,
The other right.
yeah,
another house.
and where's the house?
Again, the road starts turning over here, so the house is in this area over here, well, in the front of the septic. Again, the property, I would say about 9% slopes down this way. So all the wells along Shindaken Hill Road are in the front, and the septic's are in the back. But, again, there's a house here, and there's a house here.
And so the only variance is the amount of transfer,
Yep.
and it's,
The lot area for lot number 2,
right,
because
it's still under.
as much as they're giving, correct,
Yeah.
it's still under.
It's
But
gonna be
so
more,
the
but-
frontage they still have for the other lots adequate
They
and
do.
all that
Yeah,
good stuff,
every,
okay.
all the setbacks
Okay.
are met. It gets closer into conformance, it just can't ever be with the 5 acres, you need at least 6, right, so.
Okay.
Do we have a motion to deny to the ZBA?
I'll make a motion to deny the applicant to the zoning board.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you,
Thank you
Joe.
very much.
Joel, you want to bring that up so
More
Craig can
compliant,
stamp it?
right? So that's good then.
Do you have the stamp?
Let's
Craig?
stamp it.
Stamp it denied.
Oh, of course.
Joe, how many times have you been here?
Too many?
No.
Should have your own stamp on it.
Oh, he does. No.
Joe, what's the nearest cross street?
Oh, it's,
Look on the,
okay. What's that?
Wilderness Trail.
Wilderness Trail.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Oh, also, Somers Hill Road is not that far away, too. You go down the street. Thank you.
I don't.
Melchner, site plan 177 Bucks Hollow Road, bond return.
Hi, everybody.
Mike?
I don't have any comments on this. It's a bond return. Rich usually does this.
Pat, do you have Rich's?
I do, Mr. Chairman. So the original bond for this was $160,000 and some odd. Amount was reduced to $20,000 in 2009 because some landscaping wasn't completed. The applicants have submitted a letter. Field inspection shows that there is significant vegetation now between the bike path and the site. If the board's inclined to permit removal of the planting element from the project, the department recommends that the remaining bond of $20,000 be released. That's Richard's comment.
Pat, do you have any
I have
comments?
nothing on this bond.
I think we've all been sent pictures of the vegetation. Any questions from anyone on the board?
Vegetation's on the applicant's property,
Correct.
right? Okay. No plans to remove that. Okay.
Can't get up there.
Right.
If there's no questions, we can schedule a public hearing.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to schedule a public hearing.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you,
Thank you.
everybody. Have a great night. Thank you.
too. Braemar at Carmel, 49 Seminary Hill Road, site plan. Is there also a public hearing?
Good evening.
Mike?
Yes, all of my zoning comments have been addressed. This is on for public hearing.
Pat, do you have Rich's comments?
I don't, I do. Let's see. He's noting the permits that are required for this. They're required to provide a stormwater maintenance agreement for the project. They need coverage under the stormwater regulations. It's over 1 acre, so they'll need a general speedies permit and SWIP. And a performance bond will be required, so no technical comments from Rich. All of those are things that can be addressed as conditions of approval.
And Pat, comments from yourself?
They've addressed all the site planning issues. You do have a memorandum from Mr. Belusi regarding the site architectural issues. As you know, this was a site that started out with a fairly attractive building to begin with, but I believe Mr. Belusi has provided his final comments to you in his memorandum.
I believe he complimented some of the
Yep.
improvements that were made. His recommendation, for those who haven't read it yet, was to go forward with the proposed design. That being said, do we have any questions right now to ask Jeff while he's here? One note I have, Jeff, is landscaping along the west property line. It was kicked around, it was discussed. I'm not sure where that ended up.
Sure, I can address that. By the way, Jeff Cantelmo from Insight Engineering, Surveying and Landscape
Jeff, is that,
Architecture.
is that on? It might be, I just don't, no one sounded strong on that tonight.
There you go.
Okay, good evening, and I'm with David Mamina from H2M Architects, who's the architect for the project, and I also have Jessica Cotaliz and Richard Falaski from Philbin Group, who are the applicants and would be the operators of the assisted living facility. So the question regarding the western property line is this property line here. We did provide a bit of screening in one spot, and I want to show you why we picked that spot. There's a little bit of a grade change that happens there. And we're below, we're probably 6 feet below the existing grade here with our parking lot. And then it starts to even out through here. So the thought was to provide some screening there because there would be the happenstance for car lights or something to come through there. The architect suggests, thanks, Mark, suggests this, that we discuss this, this line with you. As you can see, there's a pretty significant undisturbed area that would stay intact there. This one's probably almost 200 feet, and this one's maybe 100 feet. So the question is, you know, is it worth extending the screening line? If the board believes that there's benefit to that, certainly we would consider it.
Is that a buffer easement, or is that just a buffer that the previous owner?
There actually is a conservation
something.
easement, right? So the conservation easement is quite extensive. It comes down through here, comes back up around and into here.
That's what I thought it was.
We're actually preserving quite a bit more, particularly in this corner, as you can see.
Nice, right?
And as you know, any further disturbance of that area would require us to come back and see you. So that's the thought.
And that is treed. It's very
Yeah.
thick.
Yep. There's significant trees in there. I'm not going to say that the understory's thick, but there's certainly a bunch of significant trees throughout.
So Jeff, I'm going to recommend that you extend that planter beyond the traffic circle. So you will have vehicles moving in and out of that
Right.
porte cochere and so forth. So if you at least extended it to the end of that, I think you're covering what would be the impactful area.
We're not going to do it. No. No, we have no problem, you know, for us, you know.
50/50 chance to
Yeah.
get that right.
Right. How'd I do?
There's always some disagreeable.
Yeah, I think if we extended 3 or 4, yeah, that's fine. We'll do.
What about your lighting on site?
Yeah, so when we responded to your architect's comments, we did point out to them that our lighting plan does include a cut of the light that we're using. We're using dark sky compliant LED lighting, the state-of-the-art lighting. We've provided a lighting plan that shows, you know, the throw of our lighting. And as I said, the detail is on the lighting plan. So I think he might have just missed the detail. That has to do with the site lighting. The building itself will have downlit, and David can talk, if you want, about the lighting associated with the building itself. But our lighting plan shows that we have, you know, a very properly lit yet sensitive lighting plan that doesn't really spill much light out beyond the intended areas.
Are there cuts available on those light fixtures with the photometrics?
They're on the drawings,
They're on the drawing.
yes. And again, I believe the architect missed that. I think,
We addressed that early on,
Yeah.
and that was added in one of the early reviews of the project.
Jeff, can you put the renderings up for the cameras as well as for us? I know we discussed this a little bit last meeting.
I'm going
Is
to
there any other
pass
questions?
the mic to David.
It's fine. That's fine.
Hi, David Mamina, H2M Architects and Engineers. As was said, I'm Director of Healthcare in the firm and the architect for the project. We've done a number of projects with the Pulaski family throughout Long Island and Westchester area. I think the architect did make constructive comments. I think
good.
whoever said, certainly, we think that it helped to enhance an aesthetic that I think you had said we already had going kind of from the beginning, and so there was a nice collaboration there. In terms of the lighting, really the only lighting that we would be proposing would be, we would have down lighting underneath the drive under porte cochere, and that would be lighting that is completely flush with the surface. No part of the luminaire would stick below that, so we're not going to get any spread to the sides from that. It would be straight down. Same thing in those canopied outside areas, but along those walls in there would be decorative sconce, type lighting that's more for ambiance and to put some immediate light at where doors would go, into the building. So, I mean, other than that, the site lighting plan, which you've all looked at, it's extensive, and the photometrics show, that it does give, adequate lighting, and generally we prefer, for the site to be much softer, and, the attraction would then be as you drive up. Oh, that's not us, okay. So wait a minute, someone's talking to me.
Well, you can achieve that based on your color.
Yes, yeah, I think we could do it easily.
Go with a softer LED.
Yeah, and it would make it, I think, really, really handsome, yeah. It would be nice. So I think unless there are other questions, I mean, I'm glad to answer them, but, we did, answer all of the questions for the architect. We spoke with him. I believe he was satisfied with what we had put forward, there. And again, it should be a nice-looking building that's going to contribute nicely to the community.
Has the fire department commented on this yet? Did you send it to them, though? Yes.
Do you guys want a card?
Sure. I'll give it to the file, sure.
Mark, last meeting you mentioned, Anthony and I were just discussing it, you mentioned the size of the clapboard. I think.
Did you have a comment?
Yeah, wasn't it like a 6-inch or 7 that you made a
3.
suggestion?
I think Kim brought something up and there was discussion about you had 4-inch and maybe go to a 5, double 5 because of the size and shape.
Right.
But that was, I thought you might have addressed that.
I think it was addressed in the, in the letter to the architect. I do remember seeing it, though, in there.
I think it's a sharp-looking building. I actually think, I do agree with you, our
Good job.
architect helped out quite a bit, and
Yeah.
you had a nice piece of property going forward, right? Anyone from the public wish to be heard on this? I'm sorry, you need to come up to the microphone, please.
Kurt Walters, I live on 51 Seminary Hill Road. I think this is a great project, I really do, in terms of meeting an unmet need in this community. I just hope that you'll keep in consideration that we do live along that Seminary Hill Road. It's been secluded back there for many years. Some people have lived there for 50, 70 years. So the tree line and whatever landscaping you can do or stay on them about that to make sure that, we don't have, we can keep some of that view, that unimpeded view. Also, there's a lot of runoff in that area. There's a lot of water that builds up on there, I know, because it comes through my backyard. So just keep that in mind in terms of the drainage and issues along those lines. But it's a good project, obviously. Again, we're a little worried about the lighting, but I hear you talking about this. I hear you talking about drainage. I hear you talking about the trees. So, you know, that's encouraging. So just please, you know, keep on the builders about that. And I think the people will support it on the road.
There should be zero spill off of light from the site, except cars. I mean, headlights we can't help, but I'm talking about from the actual buildings, there should be zero spill off.
Good comments, thank you.
You know, they're excellent comments, and I think what you will see, because I do a lot of assisted living for a lot of different companies. Some of the companies are national companies that are very aggressive, you know, in what they're doing, and, you know, the owners might even show up at a hearing, you know, and then you're never going to see them again, okay? The people sitting right here.
I'm sorry, you really need to speak into.
Nobody could hear you.
The 49 Seminary Hill Road, that piece that runs, because you're taking the address 49 Seminary Hill, you're not doing anything on that piece of property between the two homes. I'll point to it right here.
Fire department access?
That's where you're getting 49 Seminary Hill Road. We just want to make sure you're not going to be tearing this up. Or putting
Right, so Seminary Hill Road actually sits out here. Our overall plan shows it, and there is an ownership fee strip that sticks out between houses in this area. And the gentleman's asking if we're making any improvements to that area, and the answer is no. That's going to stay as it is.
Aren't you bringing the water in that way, or?
No, the water's coming in along the emergency access road, and then the sewer's making its way out across the line. So
I forgot, you're on that side, sorry about that.
Jeff, is that finger in the conservation area?
I believe it is, yes.
It is.
Yeah, it's a good point.
Your comments are well taken. Be nice if the management invites the local neighbors in one day for a little site tour and proactive meet and greet.
My wife and I are actually going out to the Wallkill one, which is exactly, supposed to be exactly the same as that.
This is the guy who can give you
For myself.
the Class A tour. He'll be-
So one question, the gentleman brought up drainage.
Sure.
And I'm not sure if we discussed it before, but can you just?
Yeah,
speak
no
to it?
problem. So as your town engineer pointed out in his comment memo, we're subject to general permit for construction activities and have to prepare a stormwater pollution prevention plan. We also need a stormwater pollution prevention plan from the New York City DEP based on their heightened requirements. So the homes we're talking about and where the gentleman lives is up in here. Our site generally drains in this direction. So all of our improvements that you see here will be draining away from those homes in a downhill direction. We'll be capturing and treating that runoff in a series of stormwater practices that meet, again, the heightened requirements in New York City DEP. As our driveway extends out and follows the old driveway on the Guy Post property, we continue to collect that water in a swale. We have a water quality swale, again, for stormwater purposes, and then we enter the closed system, drainage system that exists along Seminary Hill Road. And again, we've prepared a fairly extensive stormwater pollution prevention plan, you know, showing all the numbers and all the details pertaining to that.
Where does that water go down? Where does it,
Where does it
existing-
ultimately go?
Yeah, where's the
It
existing
goes to,
system?
I'm gonna say Lake Lenida, you know,
All the way
it goes
down.
all the way down, and I think it might even cut through where the bikeway cuts through behind the old restaurant. But all of this makes its way to Route 6. The vast majority of the runoff
Right.
that we're dealing with, all of this goes down to Route 6 out and back.
So it's fair to say the runoff tomorrow, so to speak, will be less than the runoff today?
Right. Less than or equal to. That's our standard that we have to meet.
Right.
Right.
Any other questions from the public? Yes, please come up, introduce yourself, and speak into the microphone, please.
My name's Will. I live at 47. Our two questions were the number of
Can you speak into the
traffic,
microphone so
the
they-
traffic that's gonna,
Speak into the microphone so they can.
oh, this one.
Oh, okay.
The number of,
You got two. Just hold it up, yeah.
the number of traffic that you're gonna have,
They can
because-
speak about traffic.
and where it's gonna actually hit the entrance. Because, you know, we kind of live on that road, so we're thinking we're gonna get hit twice with the cars in front of us and then winding in to go behind. So where's the entrance gonna be, and then also like 24/7 traffic, because it's people living there.
I'll take this one. So, traffic's going to access the site via Seminary Hill Road. The majority, as far as distribution, it's envisioned that most of the traffic will come from the north, from either Route 6 or Route 52, make its way up Seminary Hill Road. We're utilizing the existing entrance into the guidepost property. There's a southerly entrance. There's two main entrances off of Seminary Hill Road. The northerly entrance is the one that will be used for the distillery, as I understand it. We'll be using the southerly one, which is a little further up the hill. So this entrance here currently exists. It's got two stone pillars at it. That's where we would be coming in. And then we'd be following the alignment of the existing driveway, which right now makes its way up to the house on the guidepost property. So we would come in that existing entrance, and we would then come up the driveway, which would be widened. And at that point, we duck back into the woods and go past, I don't know if you know where the old tennis court is?
Yeah.
Yep, through the old tennis court, and then back, like I said, up into the wooded area.
Can you speak to your volumes of trip generation?
I don't recall the number specifically, and what we do know is that when Guidepost was in full operation, it was a very heavily utilized facility. They had a very large parking lot, which is still on the east side of the facility. And they had done traffic studies over the years for their expansions and their facility utilization. At one point, after they had left the property, there was a second proposal where the Palatine Center came in, and it was a 50,000 square foot office building proposed right here in this location. And that combined trip generation as far as traffic was going to be actually a bit less than what the Guidepost was. At present, the proposal is for the distillery to go into the old Guidepost establishment, and for the assisted living to come where the former office building was proposed. Again, that cumulative traffic from those two uses is still less than what the Guidepost facility at one point was generating. The assisted living facility itself is a very low traffic generator. I believe the numbers are in the order of 50 trips during peak hours. That means, 25 cars in, 25 cars out would be 50 trips during a peak hour. And the peak hours, I'm going to say, are probably when your biggest shift comes in at 7 in the morning, when that's when they have employees 24/7, but their biggest employee group is during the normal daytime hours. So their AM peak would be between 7 and 8, and then your PM between 4 and 5 exiting. Okay, 3 to 4. So those are a little bit off of what the true peak is, but again, the first place where you would see traffic issues would be at Church Street and Route 6, which, again, the numbers we're talking about are very minimal when you look at the capacities of those intersections.
And what is the anticipated number of employees?
Full-time, we gave,
FTEs are about 80
right,
or so.
and the max shift.
Max would be in the 40s.
So the total full-time employees for the facility would be in the order of 80, and the max shift would be 45. Right.
That should give the gentleman some
Yeah.
idea of traffic flow.
So it sounds like around 700 trips a day, because there's going to be people living there. So say someone leaves and comes back once a day, or someone has a visitor, they come back once a day, 200 people, one trip in, one trip out, 400.
No,
And
that's probably. I
Another
would say that's-
500, two people in and out, 3 shifts.
It's
Four bit
156 bed, I believe is what the number was, but I'll
So
let you
first of all, the
respond.
people aren't driving and coming and leaving. That's the first thing.
What's the average age of the folks in these facilities?
Can I ask, you might want to respond to the question, maybe you want to get a microphone.
So, we did present traffic numbers, and
Yeah.
I apologize that I don't have the report here with me or the numbers at the top of my head. But just for the gentleman's benefit, traffic isn't measured in cars per day. Traffic is measured in kind of the rate over a short period of time, because that's where the problems would come up. So when we talk about traffic, we talk about trips during the peak hour, because that's where it's most sensitive. And again, this assisted living facility, very few of the people here would have a car, and the most of them are there for the day. There are services coming in, there are visitors coming in. I'm going to let Richard speak to the general numbers on that.
So I think, first of all, of the 152 residents, 2, 3, 4 will have cars. That will be it. They live here, they stay here, all their activities are here, all their meals are here. Their medical services in large part are here. There'll even be a provision for physicians to come on site. So
You indicated what's where the average age is mid-80s?
mid-80s, yeah. I mean, they're just not driving, and again, their whole social life and their activities, daily living, all occurring here. We'll have probably a 12-passenger or so van that will take them out up to twice a day to either go shopping or to different activities in the community. Historically and traditionally, assisted living is one of the lowest generators of traffic anywhere. It's just the nature of the population. So you don't have to worry about.
Do they have no visitors, like people?
Probably, on average, there'll be probably 10 visitors a day, something like that.
And generally, don't those visitors come during the peak hours?
Yeah, yes.
And
Yeah, I mean,
weekends,
I'm sorry?
right? Weekends?
Weekends.
Nights and weekends when we as residents would be at home?
Visitors will come on the weekends, and they might come in the evenings. Again, you're talking about a handful of people, 10, 15, something like that.
I think your questions are certainly valid. I believe they've answered a lot of them along the way, the last couple of months that they've been out in front of us. But bring your questions. That's what they're here for.
And then I think our last question was for the berm. Are they going to still put the berm to
Can you speak
kind
up?
of the berm to put, shield any traffic or anything like that from kind of our site of view from our house?
They're keeping
Yeah,
a
the high
200-foot
ground and-
tree buffer between you and the parking area and you and the driving aisle. At one point, it gets down, I think you said to 100 feet, Jeff?
Right.
But it's pretty thick tree line that they're leaving there.
So, I'm assuming you're on one of these homes through here. Depth of your lots are a couple hundred feet, so Seminary Hill's out here. As Mike pointed out, we're proposing to leave this dark green area undisturbed. So that'll be continued to be forested as it is today. There is a bit of a grade change from this area down to where we would be. The planner this evening asked us to extend our screening. We got some evergreen screening in this area where the grade is a little flatter. So we're going to extend that back. He asked us to expand it back into this area. So we believe there's going to be a fair amount of buffering there based on both the distance and the evergreen plantings.
I just want to say that I hope that when you're hiring 80 people, you'll try to hire people from our community as often as you can. And my second question is, this project, from breaking ground to when you finish it, how long is it going to take to get this up and running?
So I would estimate construction at 24 months. And in terms of your question on employment, we would love to have everybody be locally employed. That would be a benefit to the building.
Rich, I'm sure a lot of people had similar questions in the neighborhood that just didn't come out tonight, so it would be nice if you do a little outreach sometime along the way.
Sure, we can do that. Yep,
Might help you with your employment also.
that would be, we can do that. We'll arrange something.
For the additional 50 beds, where is that going to go for the other phase? And then what is the kind of expectation for that phase of the project once we get there?
We disclosed to the board that, you know, we've provided space for future addition should expansion be something that's desired. We're not seeking approval for that. We just wanted you to understand from a planning standpoint, spatially, why we've arranged the site the way we had. And to answer your question, there's 2 wings, one on this corner and one on this corner, that are contemplated. Richard can speak to the timing of that or the lack of timing for that.
There really is no timing for it. It's just potential down the road, but there is nothing scheduled for it.
But Mike, they would have to, oh, go ahead, please.
They would need to return to this board for any additions they do to the site. And there will be another public hearing and the whole runaround again, the same exact thing. You get your chance to speak and explain why it has not been a good project, if that's the case.
But with regard to that, the current parking layout is sufficient, should that occur?
I believe that's true, yes.
Is that true? Okay. So just the building size is going to change, not the,
Oh, so it would be wings out versus, and not actually more tearing down trees?
No. On that existing.
there wouldn't be expansion of parking lots out to the green spaces or
Yeah,
anything.
if you step, it's dash here. It's right here and here. So that's why, again,
So I mean, once it's there, it's.
right.
The
And
proposed
again,
is there.
the parking needs for this facility, as we discussed very early on, are very low. And we do believe we have ample parking, way over what we really will need initially, and certainly covering us into the future.
Any other questions from the public?
Mr. Chairman, being there's no additional comments from the public, I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Could we get a resolution drafted for the next meeting? Is that-
How to prepare a resolution?
He's on it.
We appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. I mentioned earlier at the start of the meeting that there's an adjournment on the Holman Towers, both for Croton Falls Road as well as for Dixon Road, and the public hearing will remain open. The next meeting will be October 30th. Do you have a motion to adjourn? We don't, we have minutes. We have minutes of,
Nobody reviewed, unless you have.
we have minutes of July 17th as well as August 14th.
Were they accurate?
I found them satisfactory, and make a motion. I found them satisfactory, and I make a motion to have them approved.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.